Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I noticed, David, you were waiting anxiously. Howdy, my friend. Thanks for joining us. It's awesome to have you here. Um, Listen, it is Tuesday afternoon. The spring is just around the corner. I'm excited. This is going to be another great episode. Kendra, welcome back. I love the fact that my co-hosts keep coming back. That says a little something.
Hey, Americo, thanks so much for having me back. I think that we're doing really good with consistency on our shows. And that's funny because that's kind of the topic that we're going to go over today.
Consistency is, in fact, a vital piece to anyone's strategy. And yes, we are going to dive right into it. And I, I know I made a commitment to a little bit of storytelling to kick off each episode. Uh, before I jump into my story, do you have anything you wanna kick off? Is there a
Oh,
story of your own you'd like to share?
oh, sure. I guess there's a story that I shared with you to kind of when you said, "Hey, do you have anything you want to talk about this week?" So as I see people rolling in here, I guess I could just go ahead and dive into that story a little bit. So this whole thing about being consistent and sometimes feeling like nobody's seeing what you're putting out there on social media. And I know it can happen in other parts of life too, but I think social media is a big area where if you're not seeing likes and comments and shares and that kind of thing, you can get super distracted. But I did have a discovery call last week with an individual who said that they'd actually been watching what I was doing on social media for 6 months. And I would have had no idea, to tell you the truth. I know we've mentioned this before, but with LinkedIn, the profile views is a super important statistic to be watching. So I did happen to see them show up in my profile views. But other than that, I had not seen any kind of feedback, any kind of likes, shares. I had no idea that they were watching, or one of the slides that you've made. It looks like it says lurking, which I think is so funny, but it really is relevant. So I'm excited to dive into that and to get into that conversation a little bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah, I went with Lurker because, trolls just didn't sit well with me. Hey, and there's no shame in being a lurker. Uh, I'll share a little bit about, what I do when people and companies hire me. Guess what I do? I lurk. So I get it. I'll walk and complete a journey as if I were the customer, and I'll go from end to end. And very often, you're not going to see or hear or remember me because I'm not going to engage and kind of give up my incognito persona.
Sure.
So some people do it, and I can say people don't do it with malicious intent.
Oh,
Yes,
I think
from
that's
time to
true.
time,
Yeah.
right? From time to time, you're our competitors, and I'm sure we do the same. We'll see what our competitors are doing, but that's healthy. That's just having a good finger on the pulse and your ear to the ground, and right.
Yeah, I was sorry I was giggling because I saw a comment come through that says lurker. I might have to add that to my tagline. So I think that that resonates with people too. I mean, sometimes you want to be private about the fact that you are checking someone out, and not in a weird way, but like even for business, you might want to watch what they're doing for a while before you decide, is that someone I want to work with?
Yep, absolutely. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and I've had people invite me, "Hey, feel free, check out my website. You might see something you like, and feel free to use it." Um, and similarly, I'll hear feedback that suggests, "Hey, um, whatever it is that you're doing, just keep doing it because it's working. You're showing up on my feed. Your message is consistent. I really like your approach. How it might be different. How it might be. Everyone has an opinion. And these are coming from people who also don't engage frequently or don't engage at all. And it's always nice to hear those types of compliments.
Hmm.
So, you know what? Before we jump into our conversation, why don't we share a little bit about who we are And for those in the audience who are on Team Live, I know many of you have already shared where you're joining us in from, so thank you very much. If you have any questions and you want to join us on stage, you are more than welcome to do so. I've dropped the link in the comments. I will do it periodically to allow um, the chat feed from avoiding, burying that link. I will drop it in once again in a moment, and if anyone wants to come on up, join the conversation, or ask a question, we encourage that. Feel
Yeah,
free.
absolutely. That's one of my favorite parts of the strategy session is getting to invite other people on stage. So
And
don't be
if you're
shy.
if you're camera shy, there's no shame. We don't judge. Come off camera. If you have a avatar that you want to replace your initials with, we will welcome you just the same. All right. So, Kendra, tell us who you are, who you serve, and how people can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of new people in the comments, so it's probably a great time to go through my introduction. My name is Kendra Noel. I'm in Casper, Wyoming, and I help service based business owners with their digital marketing strategy, typically using LinkedIn as a main pillar of their marketing plan. Um, and I like the banner here says, I do help people leverage their LinkedIn profile to increase their leads and generate more sales.
Fantastic. And you and I share a lot of similar
We do.
synergy, but
Yes, for sure.
you are a marketer and I am a customer experience coach. So my introduction, my name's Americo da Costa, and as mentioned, I'm a customer experience coach, helping service-based businesses as well as professionals who work independently refine their customer journeys, refine their communication strategies, as well as leveraging and leaning into LinkedIn as part of that refinement. For me, it's all about connecting people, businesses, and customers, being sure to do so effortlessly, smoothly, so that businesses and professionals can quote more, sell more, and retain more clients. Um, if you haven't heard it, you're going to hear me say it throughout the show. This is being recorded for playback. I am in the midst of trying to build a YouTube presence, so I won't share it with you now. But after the show, I will drop my YouTube channel, and Kendra, feel free to do the same.
Good
Um,
idea.
I'd love to gain support to get to the threshold that YouTube suggests I need to be able to stream or multi-stream on YouTube, and the subscriber count to get started is 50. There's another threshold at 1,000, but I'm not too worried about reaching the 1,000 just yet. I'd like to get just the privilege to stream on YouTube and be able to leverage that community. So, looking forward to gaining some new subscribers along the way. Thank you, everyone. All right, so let's jump right into the whole lurker conversation, and just change the slide here. Okay, is that legible? If
Yeah, looks good.
okay, excellent. So, what's your understanding of a lurker? How would you define lurking?
Um, I I think that I have a little bit harder time understanding the lurker mentality because I am so like I like to hit the like button a lot. So if you know me and you're connected with me and I've had any kind of conversation with you, even if we're just barely an acquaintance and you pop up on my feed, I'm hitting the like button. So I don't know. There's a mentality that's different than that though. Some people don't want to always be hitting the like button. People can see what you're liking. And so maybe there's some kind of hindrance to that where they don't want everyone to know that they have liked your post. So Merrill says lurkers, and he's paging Melanie Lex Wexler, because she talks about that as well. And I think she says lurkers are a good thing, if I remember right.
Yeah, lurkers are a good thing. They serve multiple purposes, and if I were to define myself as a lurker, which I do in some cases, as mentioned earlier, I do so because I don't want to get pitch slapped. Hey, you liked my. Thanks for engaging in my comments. Thanks for engaging in my post. Have I got a solution for you? It's like, well, it's not why I came on, but some people are apprehensive in engaging because they they feel that they might get harassed.
Mm,
Personally, it's a perfectly normal behavior. It's no different than bricks and mortar shopping. If you go do some shopping, some people are just looking around, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're not ready to buy. You're thinking, or you believe you need something, a product of some sort. You're going to go out and see what options you have.
mhm. And
And
yeah, I think you said mentioned like window shopping earlier, and maybe they're just making sure that the solutions that you offer actually fit the need that they have before they actually do any kind of engagement. Would you find that to be true?
yeah, absolutely. So we talked and we mentioned consistency, and that could be exactly what people are looking for. You know what? I'm going to drop in periodically. And in order for me to like, know, and trust this person, I got to know that each time I come back, I will hear the same tone, feel the same level of confidence, and want to immerse myself in conducting business with this individual or this business. So it is somewhat scientific. This is the litmus test. People are coming in and they're testing us out and testing our message. And once they get to the point that they like, know, and trust us enough, they're going to come back and they're going to share with us. Hey, I've been following you for 6 months, even a year, and you'll know the the life cycle that your content has. Hey, I came across a piece or I saved a piece of content that you post, and you go back and it's like, wow, that was like 6 months ago.
Yeah. But if it
Mm,
resonated with them, you can see why they would have saved that.
absolutely. So there's no shame. I encourage, if you're a lurker, um, or some people will say an introvert, call it what you want. You are welcome on my space, on any digital channel. I welcome all the lurking, all the eyes, and when you're ready, I'm excited to dive in and have that conversation.
Mhm.
Right. So uh, recognizing that these this demographic or this persona is part of our social footprint. It's important to uh, make everyone comfortable, regardless of where they find themselves in the buying journey. Uh, would you say there are benefits to having people look over us? Personally, I'm going to say yes,
Mhm.
because when they come out of the woodwork, they're going to share insights and they're going to share um, information that we probably wouldn't have been privy to, and
Right.
those are like golden nuggets. Our friend Leah always talks about golden nuggets. That's a golden nugget I cherish, because someone who's been on the wings, just listening and silently consuming what we're saying, when they come out, they're going to have things to share with us that perhaps no one else uh, would have, or could have, or remembers to.
I think that's really true. I don't know if you saw this post that I did a couple weeks ago. It was right before you asked me about a topic and when we talked about this, but I did this post where I had a hamster in a ball and my cat jumped up and was like watching the hamster, and I related it to this topic like, do you ever feel like you're being watched? Because you probably are. But then someone commented on that post here on LinkedIn. I don't remember who the commenter was, but they said sometimes the lurkers or the watchers are the ones who show up and reach out to you when it matters most. So maybe they've never engaged with you before, but when they encounter that problem or that they're looking for the solution that you offer, they know who they need to reach out to. And the fact that they've never commented, liked, or shared before isn't going to get in the way of them reaching out to you and asking for help with their problem.
Yeah, and more importantly, and this is just observation, this is my opinion, but I can I'm going to say I can almost bet that a lurker is more likely to buy from you than someone who's just supporting you. Not every customer is going to be a first degree connection. Not every customer is going to jump out and support you. And our friend Roy says it best. Measure me or judge me when things are going poorly. When things are going smooth, just be thankful that they're going smooth. You don't need that constant stroke of the ego to let you know things are going smooth. It's when things
Hmm.
go astray. That's when you really count on people to not only share that feedback to help you get back to that level of consistency, but it's those people that you really want to keep close because they're going to give you stuff that perhaps no one else will. Anyway, I think we've covered the lurker piece. I wish I had a better choice. At least one thing I want everyone to be clear on: lurking is not stalking,
Right.
right? I'm sure we have stories that we could share of stalker like behavior, but that's not for this show. That's for another conversation. So we're gonna move on. Let's get back into consistency. Let's
Okay.
talk. Uh, let's talk about balancing personalization and consistency. So you're a marketer, and I'm sure many times your advice and your recommendations to your customers to balance personalization and be consistent across all channels,
Hmm.
right? Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll let you speak for yourself as a marketing professional, but well, sh- share your thoughts on this whole balancing. Is it more complex than I believe it is?
Well, I think consistency can sometimes get into a conversation of like posting time and frequency, but I don't think that that is totally what we were going for with this strategy of consistency. I think it's more encouraging people not to give up, to continue to put themselves out there and to work on their personal branding and their business branding because um, it can be easy to give up, but if you stay consistent, that's where you really start building your brand and your network and building that know, like, and trust factor that you mentioned earlier.
Love it. Love how you kind of reeled me back to what we want to talk about, and that's I think that happened accidentally, but it kind of hammers the message. Consistency is, you're absolutely right, it's about not giving up.
Hmm.
We're going to hear from time to time from different top voices and different gurus on what consistency means to them. It may not resonate. Also know that consistency has to fit your style, has to fit what you're doing. Simply following someone else's advice is, it's mostly trial and error. You might get one or two things from 10 different people who give you advice to finally get what you believe you're comfortable with in terms of consistency. But uh, this particular chart kind of echoes the message where, the higher the level of consistency, the better attraction we're going to gain with our customers, with our viewers, because they see us standardizing our messages or our service. And I was just as guilty when I started this whole creator persona and sharing what I thought was valuable information. As time progressed, I realized, hey, I'm not really consistent. I'm trying too hard to be all things to different people, and that's not really effective, right? So consistency sometimes means whittling it back and simplifying
Mhm.
your message.
That's true, and repeating. Like, I know that people sometimes are afraid to be repetitious in their content, but really, I think that there's a level of repetition that's needed in order for people to really understand what you're all about.
That's right. And if anyone lurking around my content, you're going to hear me say quite often, be seen, be heard, be remembered, right? Because that ties into my message of customer journey refinement. I want to help, whether it's from a personal branding perspective or a business performance perspective. My objective is to help those that I support be seen, be heard, and be remembered. And that's the consistent message that will be ingrained in each of my pieces of content. That is also part of my personalization because when people engage, I can then, when I circle back with comments, with replies, or with DMs, I personalize my message. So I keep that level of consistency and kind of tie it into my DM strategy, so that it's personalized for that individual based on their profession or based on their business.
That totally makes sense. And when you're talking about personalizing a DM, do you ever use the voice recording or the video recording that's available? Because it's not just LinkedIn, it's available on a lot of social
Yeah.
platforms, at least the voice notes. But I like to use that every once in a while just to let them know that I'm responding personally and it's not an automation.
No, that is a very, very great, very good question. I do use the voice clips occasionally. Um, I should be using them more because it is a fantastic option to differentiate someone from just another text message. Um, I don't use the video, and for whatever reason, it's. I think my first step was stepping away from the keyboard. I am now visible and audible on my platform, and a part of me wants to think, and it could be just myself overthinking this. Like, all right, not this guy again. Another video message of Americo. Like, so trying to strike a balance between showing up live, showing up in um, repurposed content in video and in audio form, and striking that balance between a little bit of written content as well as the audio clips. So, great question for anyone who isn't leveraging it. I totally support your question. It is a great differentiator and a great option to use as part of your messaging strategy. Now, have we missed any questions? Have you been keeping an eye
I
on?
have. I noticed John Simpson's put in a couple things. It looks like some positive synonyms, and then this question about silent beneficiary. And I'm wondering if that relates back to the lurkers, if they're silently benefiting from the content that we're putting out there. I'm wondering if that's where he was going with that comment. Do you have more about that, Americo?
No, but give me a second. That's a great segue for me to drop in the studio link and have. I'm just gonna come off camera here. There we are. So,
All right, so that link now is back in the chat if anyone is wanting to join the stage. I think about midway through the session is always a really great time to put that invitation back out there. And John
so
says yes, that was an
mhm.
AI search that he put the link to earlier.
Well, John, if you'd like to join us on stage, we're more than happy to have you. If we're not already connected, be sure to reach out, connect, and I'll send you a DM with the link. Or if you're able to pick up the link from the chat, you're welcome to do so as well. Okay, let's move on to our next slide. Are we ready to move on to the next slide?
I am, unless you have more about this,
You
Americo.
are. All right. Fair enough. Okay, let's jump into the question: how do you maintain consistency in this digital marketing and customer experience? I think it's almost a duplicate, but from the previous slide. But let's see how we can kind of break this down. I changed the visuals, and I really wanted to talk about inconsistent messaging, talk about neglecting feedback, and the neglecting feedback piece is huge on the customer experience space. So often we'll engage from a marketing perspective, and it's all about, hey, let's get some traction. Let's get people into our funnel. Let's get prospective customers in front of our salespeople. Let's try to generate sales. And it's not uncommon, and it's also not a bad thing when we talk about inconsistent messaging. I don't want anyone to walk away thinking it's like, what's this guy talking about? Inconsistency has been part of my strategy, and
Hmm.
it's okay to be inconsistent, but still have uh, the core message embedded. I understand, and I've come to learn better as time has gone on. People consume content in different formats, right?
Right.
And it's
That's true. Um, I've seen a lot of like examples of people being inconsistent where it can really confuse people. So if their uh, social media presence looks totally different than their website, like I've even seen like different logos, extreme differences in colors, like those are things that a marketer, of course, is going to pay more attention to than a average consumer, but I still think that things like that can be very confusing. And then when people first start their business, I think a lot of times they try a lot of different things. Like they just kind of try to figure out what's going to stick, what's
right.
going to serve people the best. And I understand that, but if there's not at least some sort of main pillar that people are looking to you for and they know that's what you're about, it can be very confusing.
Yeah. So keep your value proposition consistent, and then kind of play with the ad copy or uh, any format of your content. Play around, but keep your core message, your value proposition, and your call to action consistent. Everywhere else, be creative and kind of understand what each particular demographic or persona enjoys consuming on different platforms. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think that that
Uh,
definitely ties back into it for
Yeah,
sure. I think I was just had people in my head that I've helped before and I've seen the example of like, okay, what is it that you're really about? Sometimes that inconsistency can really leave people wondering. Um, and I think that maybe women do it more than men,
hey,
honestly, because women just try to help as many people as they can, and they've got their hands in all different kinds of baskets and stuff, and it just happens where sometimes you just need to pick one or two
yeah.
and focus in on those.
Hey, there's what's the acronym? Keep it simple,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
The KISS. I won't say the last word of the acronym, but at the end of the day, it's keeping it simple is so important.
Hmm.
Um, and I can't stress it enough. I was guilty of it, and some days, even at the present moment, I find myself like, all right, you're getting too much into the weeds, um, and you're going to lose your audience. And I'll go in and I'll edit my post so that it sounds a lot easier to digest and just simplifying it. So there's no shame in going in and editing something if it doesn't make sense, or if you're open to constructive feedback and someone shares that with you, take it to heart. That is someone who cares about you and cares about your business and cares about the success and your trajectory, that they're willing to take time to share that feedback. And this is a great segue because neglecting feedback is so often um, something that I come across. Um, you know, when you define customer experience, some people used to define me as the survey guy. It's like, no, it's more about. Ah, there you go. Hold on, I'm going to pause here, Daniel. Keep it simple, silly. All right, we'll
Yep,
go with silly.
I like
Like
that.
that. But neglecting feedback is done more often than you think. Organizations are marching to the beat of this customer centric conversation. Oh, we're customer centric and we're focused on our customer. And after each interaction, we'll get prompted with an email or a text message. Hey, how's your service, or how likely are you to recommend us? And but that's just covering and touching the surface of customer experience. Customers will go out of their way and they will give you excellent feedback, and very often it just falls on deaf ears, and it makes its way to a boardroom. And well, here's what a customer is saying, or a particular customer is saying, this is a huge account, and very often, and it just breaks my heart that people find reasons not to dive into it. That's just an outlier. It's an anomaly. We're not hearing that from anyone else. Well, are we not hearing that from anyone else because no one else has uh, given or the courage or had the courage to step up and share this with you? Is
Mhm.
this happening more times than we care to know? And this is the first time we're hearing about it because someone cares about us enough to share that with us. And you know what? It's a tough conversation because decision makers, and I've seen this happen time and time again. C-suite executives, like, yeah, let's revisit this. Should it come up again? And sometimes it doesn't come up, and people say, well, there's an I told you so moment. See, it never came up again, and you're losing revenue and you can't figure out why, and the answer was right in front of us, and we chose not to do anything with it.
Yeah, if you're gonna ask for the feedback, you've gotta be willing to make some, adaptations when someone
Yeah,
gives you something that's worth drawing some attention
ab-
to.
absolutely, absolutely. And when I was in my corporate positions, whether I was a people leader or just a product leader, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is being able to close that feedback loop. If someone comes with some feedback, acknowledge it and share where possible, share the why behind why things aren't going to be looked at. Right? And that why sometimes can be just budgetary. Hey, it's on our strategic priorities. This is something where we're going to earmark for the following budgetary year. The more you share as to why something isn't being done or when it will be done, at least it closes that feedback loop. The
Mhm.
customer or the employee will, to some degree, be satisfied because hey, someone's listening. It's not just me putting a comment in the suggestion box and hoping for the best. Someone actually read my suggestion and they're circling back. Okay, nothing's going to be done about it now, but at least I know that someone looked at it, someone understands the importance of it, and they're telling me why and when they're going to address it. And if they're not going to address it, they're also going to share with me, you know what, this is great feedback. However, it's not within our business's appetite to address this. And very often it's well, I'll see that where customers are asking for a particular level of service or product that they're searching for, and it just isn't in that business's wheelhouse. That's not the business that they're looking to acquire or get into. So someone jumped into the studio. Let me just see who it is, and let's bring him on up.
That sounds great.
All right, we have a repeat guest, our friend Roy. Roy, welcome to the show. Good evening.
Actually, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Yes, I apologize. Good morning.
No, no,
You're
no.
right. You're calling from the future.
Good evening, and good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening and good morning.
Always great to have you, Roy.
As
Uh,
thank you. As you can see, I'm in the car, and it's still pretty dark outside. So now, just such an interesting conversation that you're having about this aspect of feedback. Yeah,
so thanks for tagging along. Drive safe and feel free to jump in at any time. Feedback, listen, I hear you talking about it quite often. Um, the importance of feedback is so often underappreciated, undervalued, but it's what makes a lot of companies and professionals set themselves apart and become successful. I touched on it earlier before I brought you on stage. People who take the time to share feedback do so because they care enough about you and your success.
absolutely. I wanted to maybe just share this because I think this is a really important aspect of customer experience and feedback. And as both of top of my priority list in my business is what I call world-class customer experience, and I'm always striving, to be better. So I see feedback. Well, there are two things. First of all, constructive, positive feedback is fantastic, and I always like to say, the time to ask for testimonials and positive feedback is when a customer's heart is full and they're thrilled with your service. That's a very good time to ask. But um, my thoughts that I wanted to share was when you are getting negative feedback, or when you're giving negative feedback, my approach is always like this: don't do it in a destructive way that just breaks things down. Rather, give the reason that you're giving the negative and or feedback that needs some attention, and explain to them, number one, why you're giving the feedback, and then give some suggestions of what they can do to change that particular behavior. For me, that's being positive. In other words, you're saying to somebody, here's what I think you're doing wrong. Why don't you consider doing some of these things that'll change the outcome for other people? I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Sorry, go ahead, Kendra.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say it totally makes sense. And Roy, it reminds me of when you and I first had a conversation over Zoom, and you had called it something different, and I said I think it's a language barrier. You kept calling it, I think you said crit, which was like a critique, I think. But you said something about, feel free to ask me if you want that, or invite that from people that who are willing to give you that feedback, who are on a level that you respect. Say, go ahead and look at my material and feel free to give me some feedback.
Yeah, I think the wording that I used was literally the feedback, but the reality of it is that, and I just wanted to amplify that because I think that is important, is that um, it's all very well, to get all the people that think you're fantastic to give you, the accolades. Accolades, don't win the race. Accolades keep you in the right lane, but what helps people is when you get real feedback, honest feedback, not feedback that just, you know, is to reinforce what you're saying. So that's why, for instance, when I talk about, asking people to go and check out how your LinkedIn profile, as an example, is. Um, it's no good going to the people that you know. Go to people that don't know you and ask them, what do you see when you read my profile? And the same applies to business. I will go back to customers if they've had some sort of experience that I'm not happy with, and I'll say to them, I know that this happened, um, but it's not about what you do when everything works. It's how you react when things don't work. and how you react to failures that you have. And we all have them. And that for me is what defines my business, is what do I do when things don't go right? And for me, that's the most important thing. And lastly, when you have fixed up a problem for a customer that they weren't happy about, and you make them happy, guess what? You've got a much more loyal customer, because the experience of what you did and how you reacted ensures that they will give you more loyalty than somebody that just everything works for. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. My name is Roy, and I'm out.
Thank you, Roy. It always a pleasure to have you join us and share valuable tidbits of information. And if we kind of take what you're saying and look at this third variable, failing to adapt, so many of us talk about how we're open to feedback, but when we're hearing, reading, and consuming what others are sharing, um, the apprehension and the guard goes up for some of us, and failing to adapt to what is being shared as best practices, good, just good natured advice. People do this with good intentions, and then we ask for something and away we go, where we get our backs up against the wall, we put up our guard. It's like, wow, what do you know? Or just thank you, I'll take it into consideration, and you see nothing being done with it. So
Yeah, when we have a person in the audience saying, "Are we allowed to practice that here?" John says, "My profile is open for critique." That's pretty brave to just announce that to everyone, but that's kind of the attitude that we're looking for, is being open to critique and willing to take some of those things that have been given to you in feedback and make some adaptations.
all right. So if we do have time at the end, we'll take John up on his offer. We'll jump into his LinkedIn profile and take a closer look. If we do run out of time, John, I will invite you to a offline conversation, and I will share my thoughts with you, and offer any suggestions that might help you be seen, heard, and remembered. How's that? So your ears must have been ringing, because I was talking about you. I did reference some of the things that you've taught me along the way, and here you are echoing uh, some of the message that I was quoting you on earlier. So
Uh,
it's
I, I wanted to maybe just jump on the back of what you just said about
yes, go ahead.
about not taking feedback. Um, my approach and philosophy is I welcome feedback, but there, there's a very thin line between somebody giving you, you know, a waste of time, a feedback, and somebody that's giving you constructive feedback. That's the difficult part, is to know where that position is.
Hmm.
And why do I say that? Because um, my take on it is that I will consider every single piece of feedback, but sometimes the feedback comes from the wrong place. Somebody that's critical of you because they're jealous of you, for instance. And then you've got to know that that kind of feedback has to be pushed to the side. Thank you so much for your feedback. And in your own mind, you're saying, I'm happy to consider it, but it's absolutely destructive. And it doesn't do it doesn't do anything to serve our cause. So I'm just highlighting the fact that be mindful that there are going to be people that will give you destructive feedback. Consider it, but when it's not serving you to its best efforts, then move that aside and get on with your life. That's it.
Yeah, that is a excellent point that we may have overlooked. You're absolutely correct. How often have all of us, at some point or another, whether it was through academics, through our professional environment, our professional landscape, where someone has suggested to us, you know what, don't waste your time doing that, or don't waste your time studying that. It's got no purpose. it's got little value. And to your point, some people will be destructive because for a multitude of reasons. It could be that they're jealous of your success, or they're just you know um, concerned that your idea might take off and leave them trailing in your dust. Right? But yes, it's accept it with open arms, but take some of the destructive criticism with a grain of salt,
Mhm.
and don't let it discourage you and derail your consistency or your trajectory.
Yeah, oftentimes the most negative feedback comes from people who aren't willing to put themselves out there the same way you have. So they're, they criticize what you're doing, even though in the back of their mind they might kind of wish that they were a little bit more open and willing to try some of the things that you're trying.
Yeah, and you know what? There's no trying. If something fails and it fails miserably, you're gonna at least walk away with a learning of some sort.
Hmm.
On whether that learning is, here's what I could do differently and try it again, or here's what I would not do, and it now becomes part of your storytelling. Hey, here's what I've tried. Here's where I failed. Here are my lessons learned, and you now start sharing the lessons learned from your failures. So there's good comes out of everything that we do. Not doing anything is the worst thing we can do for ourselves. So, all right, let's get into our last slide and to see if we can uh, have this conversation and leave us enough time to help John out uh, before we reach the top of the hour. Our- So, jumping into the the cycle of consistency, and I'm looking at this from a customer experience perspective and talking about the importance of consistency. We touched on it earlier. Consistency builds loyalty and customer satisfaction, but it also builds loyalty. We talked about the lurker at the beginning. That person who's watching and consuming your content, they're looking for that level of consistency. It's your consistency that's going to earn you the like, know, and trust, so that when they're ready to buy or when they're just ready to jump into a conversation, you've done enough consistently to earn that conversation and that trust. Measuring, when it comes to measuring, I have measuring methodologies, and it's journey mapping or surveys just to collect data and get a good understanding on how things look, feel from a customer's lens. But I'm sure with marketing, if we were to pause here, marketing there's also ways to measure. Is there not, Kendra?
To measure your consistency with marketing,
Yeah. Uh,
are you thinking about analytics or what part of measuring
yeah,
marketing?
yeah. For me, I'd lean heavily on the analytics.
Hmm.
Your dwell time, your how quickly are people coming in and exiting your website, for instance. So from an analytic perspective, I'm sure there's plenty that marketers do and leverage. Is there anything that you would suggest people stay away from when it comes to marketing? Because consistency, and we touched on this a few weeks ago, and we will continue to touch on this. Marketing is a long play.
Hmm.
You're not jumping into a campaign for instant gratification. This could take weeks. This could take months. So that also has to be factored in when you're measuring.
Yeah. So I think that scheduling can help with the consistency, and then having a calendar that kind of lays out so you know what you're going to be scheduling or what you're going to be talking about and when, can kind of help with trying to come up with things last minute. And some of that decision paralysis, what should I post about kind of thing, if you have a content calendar, can really help with that type of thing. um, and then the website and the open rates is probably more what I would lean on. The website, you can track and see, how much time they spent and how many like with a percentage of a bounce rate, but open rates in your email marketing, that's another analytic that I would track, although I don't know if it totally goes along with the conversation about consistency.
Oh, we have someone else either jump in or jump off. Hold on a second. Let's take a peek.
Okay.
I just got cued. John is joining us.
Oh, perfect.
Excellent. John, welcome on stage. Great to have you here with us. What would you like to share, my friend? John, are you there?
Hello, can you hear
There,
me?
there we are. It says that you're muted. There you go. We can now hear and see you.
All right.
Welcome on stage. The floor is yours. What would you like to share?
Oh, well, you said that you would assist me, so I thought I'd come in. I
All
didn't mean to
right.
stop you. I was going to wait till you were done.
Fair enough. Well, let's keep you up here, and we're going to continue the conversation, wrap things up, and try to get your profile up and help you out.
Cool.
Okay. Um, Give me 1 second here.
I'll just continue along your
Yes, go ahead.
slide,
Go ahead.
maintaining process best practices. So elevate your process. I think that that's a really great point that you made there, Americo, and it goes along with marketing and customer experience. I'm sure you have more to say on the customer experience side of that.
Hey, at the end of the day, I think the takeaway here with maintaining uh, best practices when it comes to process is understanding no different than your customer journey. It isn't something that you set it and forget. A process created today may be antiquated within weeks, months, or years. Have some level of cadence to revisit those processes. And if
Hmm.
you don't listen to the cues from your customers who will share in their sentiment and in their feedback. Hey, this is, it could be, you know, here's how frustrating it is to deal with this organization. Here's how frustrating it is to get something purchased on their uh, e-commerce platform. Listen to that because it could be signs pointing to outdated processes.
Hmm.
Just because you have them doesn't mean that they're set for life. Maintaining a regular uh, heartbeat and a pulse, making sure that if you don't have processes, make sure you create them. And then when you do create them, make sure that you revisit them.
Yeah. And then that goes along with technology's role because
Yeah.
technology is changing so fast, right? If you have a process, pretty soon you're going to have to update it.
Yeah, and technology, it's hard to keep up, but uh, the takeaway here with consistency is making sure that you're not waiting till the 11th hour to update something.
Hmm.
Once again, ear to the ground, finger on the pulse, understand your tech stack so that you don't find yourself, you know what, we invested a lot of money, we're not going to invest um, for quite some time. This should carry us through, but that could be correct for one particular platform, but not for this. So understand how and where to prioritize your tech stack so that not everything comes crumbling at the same time, and you find yourself in such a predicament that it could be the demise of your business. Putting stuff off, be strategic, and when it comes to refining your organization from a tech perspective, understand where you're lacking. um, Kind of jumping here looking at the conversation, understand where you might be lacking, understand the lifespan of what your investment is so that when attention is needed, understand, is this an opportunity just to refine things? Is there uh, some level of plugin or um, augmentation or update that we can do to avoid an entire rebuild. You'll hear me talking about, not everything is a rebuild or a replacement. Sometimes just refining and renovating, uh, it does the trick. If we look at the homes that we live in, if when things get a little ugly for us, what do we think? Hey, we got to move things around, give this a fresh look. We don't say, all right, we got to move because the sofa's kind of had its day, right? Uh, when the sofa's had its time, you think of updating the sofa, not updating your entire house.
My experience has actually been opposite, but I can see that's not for everybody. I've only ever lived in a house for a few years at a time, and every time we move, we get new furniture. But that's besides the point.
That's funny. I walked right into that. That wasn't even planned.
No, that wasn't planned. Oh
And
goodness.
so, of course, most importantly, you know, training, and whether it's training yourself as a solopreneur or an enterprise where you have a team, you can throw money at a solution. You can invest heavily in consulting and journey mapping and process creation and technology. But if you don't keep those who are keeping your customers supported, trained, and up to date, then it's all for naught.
Hmm.
All right. You can have the best marketing strategy, and your funnel is just over pouring and overflowing with prospects and people wanting to give you money in exchange for your products and services. But if your team can't keep up and deliver that level of consistent service, then you're you're throwing away money. It's time to take a step back, understand what training, what support, and what best practices you need to instill in your team so that all the work that you've done with technology, with your processes, and with all your planning and marketing, it all fits in and it all complements one another. And you know that you're going to see a return on that investment. So it's always important to never neglect these stages of consistency. And it doesn't mean you have to visit all of them all at the same time. It could be quarterly, it could be monthly, bi-monthly, but touch and visit one of them at some point throughout the year. And by the end of your annual cycle, know that with confidence you've touched each of these and you've made the the changes necessary. They're incremental changes, but they will give you longevity, opposed to having to rip that band-aid out and invest heavily in rebuilding and restructuring your business. All right,
Do we still have John on the stage?
let's find out.
I'm still here.
John is
All
still
right.
here. All right.
And
Okay.
believe it or not, I just got an email that said I should reach out to somebody for coaching, for business coaching.
Look at that. What a great
You?
segue, John. That
Is
could,
that you?
yeah, I'd welcome that with open arms, my friend.
Okay. I am changing my logo that they just sent me a new copy of.
Okay. I
All
was
right.
just taking a look at the profile. So, do you have any specific questions about your profile?
Not really. I mean, I have. I'm sorry. I've been under the weather with some health issues, and I've only just gotten on my feet here, like last week. Had to get my office soundproof to work from home, and I didn't have time to work on my profile at all really until January when my ending date on my contract prior was rudely changed, and I just trying to put it together and uh, hurdle the abyss of resume incinerations and get on the other side of, especially seeing that AI is a requirement moving forward. I don't believe in AI. I think it's against my religion, but apparently I need to learn it anyway. And so I'm looking to get into that. I'm actually in a boot camp course that I've enrolled in that's supposed to be like a year long to study AI and cloud ops and DevOps and all that stuff. So I have very little in my profile, but there's at least something to look at now.
Hey, here's my thought or my 2 cents on AI. We're all going to have opinions of it. Some of us will believe that we lost our jobs because of it. Some of us will have, different opinions. I'm going to share with you. It's important to adapt and adopt. You might not like it, you
Yeah,
might not love it, but it's not going anywhere.
yeah,
And right,
that's exactly right. It's I don't think it's a good thing, but yes, it's got to be. You've got to go with it, and you at least have to have the skill and be able to converse about it.
hey,
Mhm.
if I look at my professional journey, when I graduated, jumped into banking, and that was just at the time where telephone banking was making its debut across the the financial landscape, and everyone was up in arms. Oh my goodness, branches are going to close. I'm going to lose my job, and none of that happened. It just became an an added option for customers to adapt and adopt the way they do their banking. Today, telephone banking is still vibrant. Bricks and mortar branches are still in existence, maybe not growing as rapidly as they once did, but
Mhm.
now we have online banking. So there's a third layer of technology that came into the financial landscape in the ecosystem. So we've all adapted and adopted, and with AI and large language models, it's no different. As long as we understand and appreciate the value it brings as a tool to make us bigger, better, and stronger as professionals, we will get along just fine with AI.
Yeah, it's like they have cars driving themselves now. It's happening whether you like it or not.
No,
And
absolutely.
I'm like I said, I'm in the class. I'm learning. I'm trying to get in with a company that's really into it. And I just thought I'd check to see. You'd mentioned looking at profiles. Um, if there was any feedback. There's nothing on my profile about AI except for the Hebrew definition of the Hebrew word AI that I found kind of amusing. I think that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy that wasn't really meant to be a prophecy, but that's just my joke.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, here's my commitment and my promise. I will circle back. I'll send you an invite. Find some time we can have a one-on-one conversation. We are
Okay.
at the top of the hour, and not only that, but I think our conversation is more fitted for um, either offline or perhaps having you join us for another one of our live sessions around LinkedIn literacy, or one of our other shows that probably would suit and get those answers or those questions answered. Um, for now, I appreciate the fact that you put yourself out there and volunteered to be uh, critiqued and collect that feedback. I think that is a very strong and courageous of you. So
Mhm.
kudos to you for doing that.
Well, thank you.
And for
Uh,
joining the stage
and
because,
for joining us. Yes,
yes, we're happy to have people join, and a lot of people, I think, are not, ready to do that, so thank you for joining the stage.
Not a
and
problem. Thank
and
you.
for everyone else who has not uh, joined us on stage, we love you just the same. I know that there's a lot of comments that I probably have uh, passed by and haven't responded to. I will be sure to return and engage in each of those comments. If there were questions that we missed, too, will be sure to answer those questions. But now we're at the top of the hour and want to respect everyone's time. Want to thank everyone for joining us, and see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.